and get started. All right, good morning. Thank you for joining us for our last Ag, Food, and Natural Resources virtual job spotlight for January. My name is Lynn April, and I am the Director of Education for Economic Development at CESA 8. And joining me is Allison Bowie, who is with NWTC. So the two of us are going to be managing this today, and we are looking really at secondary and post-secondary education with regard to the career cluster of Ag, Food, and Natural Resources. So we will be hearing today from Jonathan Barkey, who is the Farm Business and Production Management Instructor at NWTC, Jamie Propson, who is an Ag teacher with Mishicot High School, Wendy Vandenboom, who is the DBM Dairy Science Instructor with NWTC, Dr. Kevin Furmanek, Soil Science and Watershed Management Instructor at UWGB, and Steve Arendt, who is with Environmental Engineering Technologies at NWTC. So just a reminder that our next job spotlights in February are going to be centered around law, public safety, correction, and security. So February 3rd will be our first one, where we will be hearing from a police chief, a sheriff, a judge, and campus police officer. So just a reminder of our norms. This meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast through Inspire Northeast Wisconsin through our website. We do have everyone muted and video capabilities turned off at this time, especially for students, just to minimize distractions. You will be able to see any slides that the presenters have shared through my screen. So that's how you'll see what they will be presenting. If you leave the meeting, you may not be able to get back in, but I will kind of keep an eye out for that as we go along. We do, however, really recommend that students ask us questions through the chat. So Allison will be manning the chat. And so any questions that you have, please make sure to type them in there. And then we don't anticipate needing to do this, but we do have the ability to remove anyone from the meeting if they're being distracting. So we are going to jump right in today with our first speaker, since we have 5 of them. So we have Jonathan Barkey, who is the Farm Business and Production Management Instructor with NWTC. Jonathan.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Again, my name is John Barkey, Farm Business Instructor here at NWTC. If you have any questions after the presentation is over, my email is on there, john.barkey@nwtc.edu. Feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as quick as I can with that. So the Farm Business and Production Management Program at NWTC is a very untraditional type program for farmers. We have a lot of folks that are currently either dairy farmers in beef production and crop production. And then there are some traditional type students in those classes as well that aren't necessarily working on a farm right now, but are looking to learn more. You can go to the next slide. So again, I said it's pretty untraditional. The program is 6 years long. That being said, students do not necessarily need to attend all 6 years of the program. On the other hand, we have quote unquote students that are in the program for 18 plus years. So they'll go through the program several times just because so many things in agriculture change over the years. So the 6 years are a agronomy and or crops year. We have a livestock management year, soils, which is the year that we're in right now. So we're talking all kinds of soil health and that sort of thing. Livestock nutrition, and then we get down to some of the brass tacks and the financials and the record keeping year as well. Go to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the kind of interesting and neat thing about the program is that we do a lot of work with the actual farm producers that are out there. And again, we've got a range from probably anywhere from a 17-year-old to 50-year-olds in our classes. And the really cool thing is that it's a very open sharing type platform. And so We get to understand what's happening on different people's farms, how they are managing their operations, and we all can learn a lot from learning from other farmers in our areas. So you are able to sign up for individual years. So if you have no interest in livestock, you can just sign up for the business years, the agronomy and crop years, the soils years, that sort of thing. If you are interested in going through the whole 6-year program, at the end of the 6 years, you can get a technical diploma after completion. So we do both day and night classes. A lot of our classes are at night. So to help have the dairy farmers that are in the barn till 7 o'clock be able to make it there. I've got 2 different classes that start at 8 p.m. and run till depending on the night, 10 or 11 p.m. And sometimes if people are talking a lot, we might not get out of there till midnight. That's kind of on the rare case, but that does happen. So the other thing is we've got 3 instructors in the program. And so we cover a big swath of the territory. We've got classes in Sturgeon Bay, Luxembourg, Kewanee, Pulaski, Bondwell, Shawano, Gillett, Wrightstown, Lena, Crivets, Oconto Falls, Niagara, and I think there's actually a couple more that I'm missing in there. So it's close to home for the most part for anyone in the NWTC area. So with that, if there's questions, which there probably should be because we are so different than most on-campus type programs, I'll certainly take any now that or shoot me an email and be happy to help you figure out if it's something that'd be right for you in the future.
So I do have one question. When I was a classroom teacher, I would occasionally get kids who grew up on farms who said, you know, they didn't need to really spend a whole lot of time on their classes because they were just going to take over their parents' farm. So they didn't need any post-secondary education. So what would your answer to them be? Yeah,
so the interesting thing about farm kids, and me being one of them, is that when you're 16, 17, 18, 20, 22, 25 years old, you might be under the impression that you know everything about farming because, well, you do have a ton of experience, more so than anyone that did not grow up on a farm. But the thing about it is that agronomy is always evolving. And I say agronomy, but I should say agriculture. It's always evolving, and the technology is so immense. And the other cool thing about the program is, like I said, there's many other farms that have been in business for decades. And if you can learn a little bit about what they're doing and some of their, trade quote unquote secrets, and it's really cool stuff that you can take back and possibly implement on your own operation.
Great. Allison, do we have any questions in the chat?
There are no questions. I have a quick question. How do you stay up on the latest and greatest?
Yeah, right. So being a 6-year program, it's pretty tough on us instructors to be experts on everything. So my background is agronomy. I'm a certified crop advisor. And so I'm very strong in the cropping and in the soils and that sort of thing. We've got other instructors that are on the top of their game as far as dairy. One actually is a dairy farmer and that sort of thing. So with the 3 of us, we're kind of a 3-legged tripod. And so we lean on each other for that sort of things. I have extensive continuing education for my certified crop advisor license. And so I have to keep up with all that training. Those guys in their world, they keep up on their end of things, and we sit down as a group to make the curriculum. So
that's great. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. I know you have a class, so we will let you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks a lot, guys, and appreciate it. And if any questions at all, please let me know.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
You too. So we will move on to Jamie Propson, who is an ag teacher with Mishicot High School. And I'm going to stop sharing so that we can go to speaker view and see Jamie.
Good morning. So I am so happy to talk to you about agriculture education this morning. I think that oftentimes we think about agriculture and like John was talking about, we talk about farming, but ag is really diverse. And so one of my favorite parts about ag education is that it is always something different. I love math. I use math all the time in running small businesses in my classroom, but being a math teacher would be really hard. Open to page X, do problem Y, and repeat next block. Repeat the following block. That's not for everyone. So if you're looking for more hands-on, fast-paced education, agriculture education might be a good fit for you. And for students listening to this, have you thought about taking an ag ed or other career and technical education class, whether that be family and consumer sciences, tech ed, business, all types of career and tech ed exist, and they exist in your schools. Or if you love to teach and you're thinking about a career in education, which I'm biased, but I think is the best job in the world, would you think about being an ag ed teacher? Ag is in my blood. I grew up on a small family farm and I was active in 4-H and FFA. Thought I wanted to be a first grade teacher until I sat in on a couple first grade classes and realized that I like working with bigger kids, adults, helping them with their career readiness skills and training for those careers that they'll find their fit in. And so ag ed allows me to do that. It allows me to help students learn about all 8 pathways of agriculture and how they connect. We all eat. We all utilize natural resources in our homes. We all are enjoying the outdoors around us, and most of us have plants or animals. And so we all relate back to ag. It's an important industry, it's the backbone of America. And as an ag educator, you get to teach students about that. My favorite part is that every day is a little bit different. So I didn't upload pictures to the slides, but I'll show you some. An average day could start with teaching students about horticulture, plant science. In fact, here in Mishicot, we have a small plant science business. And so we make flowers for weddings and funerals. There's not a florist in our town. And so we found a need, a niche in our community, and we filled that need with a student-based, work-based business. And so we make floral design. We're on a block schedule. So second block might look something like this. Go out and work in our school forest. Natural resources, wildlife relate to agriculture. So here we're doing invasive species removal. That's something any of us could do in northeastern Wisconsin in our backyards or in our parks, our communities, but we get to practice it right here at school and get outside of the classroom and make our entire campus truly our classroom. Next block, maybe, would be food related. We all love to eat. These students in this picture are figuring out how smell and our olfactory nerve actually impacts taste. And so they're trying different lifesavers and they're blindfolded. And fun fact, they can't tell the difference between cherry or pineapple unless they actually smell. So if they're blindfolded and they plug their nose, they can't tell which one's which. Food science. Then I might end my day working with animals, teaching kids how to do pet physicals, teaching kids about veterinary medicine and basic first aid skills that will also apply to medical careers. So I have just as many students thinking about a career in agriculture in my classroom as I do those thinking about medical careers, business careers. I didn't talk about it, but there's also an ag mechanic side of this. So I might be tearing down engines or teaching students how to drive tractors safely, ATV safety. In addition, ag education is hands-on. We're getting out, using our hands, doing labs, and that's the really cool thing about ag ed. So I hope if you're watching this and you're thinking about a career in education, you'll consider working in career in tech ed, whether that be agriculture, which this topic is focused on, or tech ed, or business, or health sciences, or visual arts, but that you're incorporating those career and technical education classes into your day. And if you're saying, maybe I don't want to teach it, I just want to go through the education myself, our post-secondary options, like the people that you'll hear from at NWTC and UWGB today, are fabulous. but there's also secondary options right inside of your high schools. Over half of the schools in the state of Wisconsin have agriculture education. Schools that might surprise you, like urban schools, Green Bay. Mishicot's small, we're rural, but there are just as strong of programs in East Green Bay or in Bayport and all over northeastern Wisconsin. So I would strongly encourage you as students to think about those classes now and then think about the education side in the future. And if for some reason it doesn't fit in your schedule, know that our secondary partners also allow that continuing education. So maybe you have an apple tree at your house and you don't really know how to prune it and you're not really sure how to care for this. NWTC has a strong horticulture program, and their instructors can help teach you the basics on orchard management. And that could be done as a full technical college associate's degree, or it could just be done through a continuing education portion. The key to agriculture education is to never stop learning, to get out, get your waders on, explore. This is our school forest. We're blessed to be right in a tributary to Lake Michigan. We have the East Twin River right here at our school, as well as Johnson's Creek. And so our students can get out literally and do stream water testing, do sampling in the middle of the school day and have that firsthand experience. But if that's not what your school has, they probably have other opportunities for growth in one of the 8 pathways of agriculture. Now, just in case you're still not sure what agriculture truly is, let me name off the 8 pathways or 8 ways that you could find your fit in agriculture education. Animal science, plant science, food science, natural resources, wildlife, biotechnology, combining science and technology in the future of agriculture, ag mechanics, and agribusiness. I hope that you find your fit.
I was going to ask you about the 8 pathways, so I'm so glad that you listed those off. So you said that you had experience with FHA or FFA and with 4-H. Are there other things that you would recommend for high school students to get involved with if they're interested in the ag field?
I tell all my students to grow their resume, get involved wherever you can. FFA is a premier leadership organization for students in 7th grade to 21 years old. And so if your school offers it, there is something for you in that organization, even if you don't want to go into farming and production agriculture. 4-H starts at 4 years old and goes until 18, and there are programs locally, so you could look into that. Other strong connections would be Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or Farm Bureau. But if that's not a fit for you in agriculture, find ways to volunteer. Maybe that's helping out with a local park, maybe it's landscaping, maybe it's even helping out with neighbors and their plants. But the more you can grow your experience and boost your resume, the better.
Great. Allison, do you have any questions?
I don't. That was fantastic.
Great. All right.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here so we can go back to the slide deck. There we go. And we will move on to our third speaker, and that is Wendy Vandenboom, DVM and Dairy Science Instructor with NWTC. Wendy.
Good morning, everybody. Glad that you can be here to join us today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what we offer at NWTC, specifically in the Dairy Science program. You may have seen in maybe some of the other post-secondaries, you'll see like an animal science program that is a little bit more broad, goes through more animals. Dairy Science program at NWTC is very young. As a matter of fact, I've only graduated 2 groups out of our program so far. And how this developed actually came from producers in the area that came to NWTC saying that they needed educated, trained, skilled workers, specifically in the dairy science field. And that's pretty much how this program got developed. Is the need is there, the business is there, the jobs are there. So here we are. Next slide, please. I just really wanted to real briefly talk. I mean, we always talk about Wisconsin being the dairy state and of course California and their cows, but heck, our cows are still happier. We've got a lot of money. This is an $88.3 billion industry of agriculture in Wisconsin, and half of that is directly related to dairy. That equates to well over 400,000 jobs through the agriculture field through the state. Those jobs aren't going anywhere. If anything, I mean, a couple of people have mentioned already, we still need to eat. The world is growing. It's becoming more of a global feeding problem, if you want to call it that. So we're going to need these people to be trained, be skilled, be educated, to make a difference and be very efficient in helping to feed the world. Next slide, please. Again, just a kind of a visual, if you don't like words, this is just showing that, dairy is half of what Wisconsin gets out of an agriculture economy. Next slide. And you may also wonder, well, that's great, but how does that actually affect the community? And when we look at an individual dairy cow, she's actually putting about $34,000 a year back into the local economy. That could be in school taxes, property taxes, safety services like your police and fire, et cetera, going back to the grocery store, going back to community involvement. So this is not just a family farm or a large dairy farm that's just taking care of itself. These are actually taking care of the community as well. Next slide. When we talk about Wisconsin dairy, it means more to Wisconsin than oranges do to Florida or potatoes do to Idaho. Again, they're huge dollar amounts. And that, again, is why some of these producers came to NWTC saying, hey, we really need these educated people. Again, you've heard from other speakers already this morning about how quickly and how immensely the agriculture world is changing and developing. Technology is constantly evolving. There's so many research and development projects going on throughout the industry that, I was a nutritionist as well as a veterinarian. When I first started doing nutrition, I could do a ration for a dairy cow with a pad of paper and a pencil. You cannot do a ration today for a dairy cow without a very sophisticated program, because we're balancing for amino acids and fatty acids, not just regular protein. So this is a huge economic impact. You can make a difference, and the jobs are certainly going to be there. Next slide, please. So what are our options at NWTC? The main ones for being on campus, we actually have two pathways. The first would be the technical diploma. It's a 1-year program. And then follow that would be the associate's degree, which is a 2-year program. So you finish the first year, then you go on to the second year. And I kind of think of this program as kind of like peeling back the layers of the onion. The first few classes were very broad. We're kind of just getting a feel for the entire industry. And then as we get deeper into the program, we really delve pretty deep. We go into animal health, specifics on nutrition, those kind of things. What I didn't put on this slide is we actually do have a few high schools that are working with us with something called the farmhand certificate. And there are a couple of our classes that you can take actually in high school. And get a farmhand certificate for that, which again will give you a leg up going to work on a farm, showing that you have some of the skill and some of the training already done. Plus those classes then count toward your pathway at NWTC. So you would have those classes already done, credit is already there, and you're well on your way to getting your associate degree or your technical diploma. Next slide, please. I just wanted to throw this up here, but this just tells you a little bit of what our dairy science program kind of looks like. So that first semester, like I said, it's pretty broad. It's an intro to dairy science. What is this all about? A little bit on economics, some basic animal husbandry, which is just animal well-being and care. Then we move into records, livestock production, specifically on dairy. We look at housing and equipment, and then you get a chance to go out and do an internship. Internships are usually a paid but can be volunteer, where you're going out and you're working with a farmer, or you could be in sales or retail or somewhere in industry. You're learning what the jobs are. You're learning what is out there. You're trying to see what your fit is. And I always tell students this is an awesome opportunity to go out of your comfort zone, and you have a safety net. This is a class, so it's not like a job you're trying to keep for the next 20 years, and if you get fired, you're done. Although I'll be honest, many of my students that go to internship, they're offered employment before they even leave that internship. Then third semester, we get deeper. It's the second year now, so we go into nutrition, specifically calf and heifer replacement. Then we have another internship, so you get another opportunity to explore another part of the dairy industry. And in our final semester, we wrap things up with that animal health, farm business planning, where you look at, again, kind of tying in some of those economics, and then the dairy production management, which kind of ties the whole 2 years together and brings everything kind of full circle, so that you kind of have a well-rounded education when you are done. Next slide, please. Just a couple things on some different careers. You can be anything from a milking parlor supervisor, calf care technician, transition cow technician, maternity pen management. You can kind of see them there. I'm not going to read them all to you, but you know, there are jobs everywhere. If anybody tells you that agriculture is a nowhere zone and why would you look at that, there's nowhere to go, I will tell you that they're wrong. These are well-paying jobs. They are respected jobs. They have tons of opportunities. You may start out, for instance, in the AI industry. Maybe you'll start out as an AI technician, which you can certainly move into off a NWTC dairy science degree. But there are ways to move up into management, into additional sales. So you have career movement pretty much in every aspect of this industry. Next slide, please. Real briefly, again, technical college, why are we looking at it? I mean, we've got hands-on, it's affordable, we're close to home. Next slide. We know that we can employ our students. Most of our students are employed and again, I can say from my dairy science, my students are almost all, I think there's one, they're employed before they actually graduate. And that has been a really good feeling for a lot of our students. Next slide. Affordability, you know, we do compete a little bit with some of the four-year colleges in a dairy science. You're going to leave tech college with a little bit less debt. And I also say we're much more hands-on. So my students do tend to perform very, very well, even against some of the four-year dairy science students that they've interned alongside. So you are going to get a very good education, and the employers are going to be happy with what you come out of here with. Next slide, please. Again, as we mentioned before, you know, we're talking about hands-on. We're out on the farm. You're learning how to handle cows. You're learning how to do AI. You're learning how to work with dystocias. You're learning how to test milk on farm. So it's a ton of hands-on experience and lab experience. Next slide. I just threw a couple things up on here. These are just current job postings. They do exist. This is a large dairy looking for a full-time herdsman. Next slide. Here's another one on another 1,000 cow dairy. This is southwestern Wisconsin, but again, just kind of looking through, there's a lot of benefits. These are not $10 an hour jobs. These are well-paid positions. Next slide. And then this is just another, this is actually more of a sales type situation. But again, you can get, they're the $40,000 to $100,000 a year. That's a pretty darn good paycheck for a dairy science degree. Next slide. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions or you are curious about anything, I would love to talk to you. I am a veterinarian, but I love teaching. I am passionate about cows. I'm passionate about dairy, and I'd love to see you in my classroom. Thank you so much for the opportunity of talking to you.
You bet. Allison, do we have any questions in the chat?
There are no questions. I appreciate there's so much technology, so it's really both worlds, and it's, you know, hopefully students realize how much technology is involved in data analytics almost as well. In
absolutely.
Terms of, yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's just a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn.
All right. And there is a video, so we will be sure to send that along with the follow-up so that you have the opportunity to watch that.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And next we have Dr. Kevin Furmanek, who is Soil Science and Watershed Management Professor at UWGB.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. So I just want to let you know about the kind of go over some of the programs that support ag, food, and natural resources careers here at UW Green Bay. And I just also want you to know that UW Green Bay is really made up of 4 campuses. So we've got our main campus at UW in Green Bay, but as well as campuses in Marinette, Sheboygan, and Manitowoc. And you can start at any one of those campuses and complete a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree in some of the programs I'm going to talk about today. And this picture on the left kind of shows that, you know, our agriculture, food, and natural resources are really the mainstay of the economy here in northeastern Wisconsin. And they're interconnected, and they impact the natural resources around us as well. And I grew up here in northeast Wisconsin where that little barn is there. So if we go to the next slide, just a little bit about me. So I grew up in the Wolf River and the Embarrass River watersheds. And you notice I'm talking about my address as if it's related to water. And that's one of the main areas that I study. And I'm fortunate that I get to kind of look at soil and water relationships at the scale of a handful of soil all the way to the big system of our watersheds and how they impact the Great Lakes and how they interact with our economy and food and agricultural systems. Next slide, please. So the programs that we have here at UWGB that are related to ag, food, natural resources are geoscience, water science, environmental science. Within our biology program, we have an aquaculture emphasis, as well as ecology and conservation. And we also have an emphasis in aquatic ecology and fisheries. So within these majors, you could understand or study a number of different aspects related to agriculture, food, and or natural resources. Next slide, please. So just within the soil and water resources, which is the main area that I work in, typically students would major in geoscience, water science, or environmental science. And the types of careers that you might focus on with those types of majors are listed there on the left, anywhere from environmental consulting to watershed manager, water resources specialist, soil specialist, soil health specialist, a sustainability person. One of the things you might not know is agriculture is really looking to be more sustainable with respect to natural resources and even with climate change. And so I've heard farmers talking about, I need some advice on how I can sequester carbon by planting different crops and getting credit for planting those crops and cover crops in their soil. So we need specialists that understand how the carbon cycle works and how it interacts with agriculture and agricultural practices. Next slide, please. Within the sort of aquaculture, conservation, and aquatic resources area, a major in environmental science or in biology would prepare you for a number of different types of careers. Here I list aquaculture, which is a relatively new program with lots of hands-on opportunity. And you can see here from the pictures, one of the main things that we do at UW Green Bay is we really try to get our students out into the field. And we have lots of opportunities and great resources to study and learn. Again, fisheries is also a very big program here at UW Green Bay. Everything from dealing with sturgeon here in the Fox River or in the Menominee River to out in the bay. And again, you might be interested in understanding invasive species, as you heard from Jamie, and a number of other majors here or programs. Next slide, please. So in addition to the sort of the natural sciences, we also have a program within our biology program, human biology program, which nutritional sciences and dietetics. So within this program, you can really be a part of the food careers. So either dietitian, nutritionist, food safety specialist, you might focus on microbiology or environmental microbiology. That's probably a really growing and important field that there's opportunities in. Food processing, and also there's a big emphasis on local food production and so on, and we need people that understand business as well as the science of food production at the local scale. Next slide, please. One of the areas I want to really let you know it's kind of a new and exciting opportunity for students in Wisconsin and throughout the world really is to come to Wisconsin to study about fresh water and how it's related to our economy and almost everything we do. globally, about 78% of all jobs are related to water, and it's an area that's likely to be a greater than $800 billion sector within the global economy soon. So as part of something called the Freshwater Collaborative Wisconsin, all 13 public universities are working together to establish a curriculum, research program, and training program focused on water. And careers, again, might be some of those that I've listed here across all aspects of water. And students that would either come to Green Bay or any one of the campuses within the system have the potential to learn and network across the entire UW system. So you might actually come to Green Bay and learn about Great Lakes and agricultural water quality issues, but you might go to La Crosse for part of your training to learn about the Mississippi River and big systems. So I encourage you to look at that program. It's growing. It's under consideration for additional funding right now. Next slide, please. So how do you prepare for some of these majors? Well, I think as you heard from Jamie Propson, that getting involved in extracurricular activities at the high school level are really important. There are opportunities to get college credit in high school to prepare you for some of these majors. Within these majors, if you come here, everyone needs a pretty solid background in math, chemistry, biology, and communication. Usually it's 2 semesters of chemistry and 2 semesters of biology to prepare for these bachelor's level degrees that support agriculture, food, and natural resources. Next slide, please. And if you have questions, I encourage you to go to our website, what's called the Green Bay One Stop Shop, or GBOSS. There you can post questions or get help for any questions that you have. We are excited to continue to contribute to agriculture, natural resources, and food system students that are interested in those, and I encourage you to either go to that website or contact me directly, particularly if you're interested in soil and water resources. Thank you.
Great. Oh, let me turn on my video. So of the programs that you have, what right now is showing itself to be the most popular, would you say?
Well, our ecology and biology programs are pretty strong and have a lot of interest. And I didn't mention it, but the environmental engineering and our engineering programs are also growing. And of course, just about any of those fields also connect back to agriculture and food, natural resources. Our water science is relatively new, and we have a pretty good marketing program now to try to recruit into that. And that's a growing program as well.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've been hearing more and more about.
Mm-hmm.
Allison, do you have any questions in the chat?
There aren't in the chat. I have a question though. With your graduates, do they tend to stay in Wisconsin, or do you see them going beyond? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so students that are in these majors, some of them will go to graduate school. I don't know the exact number, but it's probably 20 to 30% of them might go to graduate school, but many of them do stay in Wisconsin. Many of them are working and to help protect the natural resources and in the agricultural industry and so on locally. So we have many of our students working in our county land conservation departments, with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, working with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, a number of these other organizations that support agriculture and natural resources management, Fish and Wildlife Service, the Forest Service, all of those types of positions, as well as environmental consulting, which in private industry. Most of them stay in Wisconsin.
Okay, great.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that information. And I was just trying to load our next speaker and his slides, but I'm going to just slide them across the screen. So last we have Steve Arendt, who is the Environmental Engineering Technologies Instructor with NWTC. And I'm just going to pop there we go, his slide presentation right there.
Okay, so you're ready for me, Lynn? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you so much. And thank you for your time, who is joining us today. I'm Steve Arendt. I run the Environmental Engineering Technology program here at Northeast Wisconsin Technical College in Green Bay. I just wanted to give you a little background as to, what environmental engineering technology is, and then what you'd learn in the program, and, the jobs that you would expect to get in this field. So you could go to the next slide. First, I just wanted to kind of qualify the different types of environmental engineers. If you go to a 4-year school, there's an emphasis on designing. You become a professional engineer, and you're preparing, plans for constructing improvements. There are environmental scientists that's involved in policy. You might get a job maybe at a city planning department. And then in environmental engineering technicians, you would operate facilities. This is the hands-on part, and analyze water, soil, and air. And that is part of the 2-year associate's degree program that we have here at NWTC. Next slide. I wanted to kind of share some of the environmental infrastructure with you that goes on in our area. Maybe we've got participants from other areas around the state, but here in Green Bay, actually they get their drinking water out of Lake Michigan. So there is a long pipeline that comes from Lake Michigan pumping, and then it's brought up on top of the bluff here. There's a filtration plant that treats the drinking water, and then it basically flows by gravity down into the city of Green Bay, and the lightly used water called wastewater then is collected in Green Bay and treated at one of the 2 wastewater treatment plants here. So that's just some background on the water infrastructure. Next slide. And then this slide shows that route that the drinking water takes coming from the pump station at Lake Michigan, being pumped, actually a couple of pump stations, up to a filter plant here in the upper picture here. And then conveying down to the city of Green Bay, where it's then distributed. There's storage tanks and such. So as part of the program, what we cover is, learning about pumps. We learn hydraulics. We learn about all the different water treatment processes that happen at that filter plant. And then we learn about water distribution systems, where are we maintaining the proper pressure, and are we analyzing the water to ensure that it's safe to drink? Next slide. And then, then what happens, right? Next slide. Then that, lightly used water gets collected, right? And there's collection sewers that then convey that wastewater from residences, businesses, on its way to being treated. So the next slide, please. So in Green Bay, if you look up maybe at the top left here, there's the village of Pulaski, for example. They have their own wastewater collection system that they collect the wastewater. And then actually there's quite a long force main. It's pumped all the way to Green Bay to be treated as part of the municipal sanitation district that we belong to here. So this is new water, as they're called. They're force main and interceptor sewers that they collect wastewater from their various customers. And then each of those customers then have their own local collection system. So it gets then conveyed and treated at their 2 wastewater treatment plants. Next slide, please. This is an aerial view of the Green Bay facility, wastewater treatment facility. And if you look at municipalities, the wastewater treatment plant is generally the greatest infrastructure investment that a community has. So you could see just the size of this facility, the complexity of what goes on here. There's a number of operators that work at this facility. And as part of our program, we go through and we learn about each of these different treatment processes and how they work, how to operate them, and how to maintain them. Next slide, please. Not only is there, drinking water, clean drinking water, what can be more important than that? And then collecting and treating wastewater so that it's safe to be discharged to our surface waters, for example. But we also talk about, stormwater. The stormwater itself has impacts to our environment. If you look at what New York used to be long ago, a drop of rainwater falls on this land, and then it infiltrates and goes down to the groundwater and feeds the base flow at some of these area streams. Of course, now that water runs off quite quickly and carries basically our civilization with it, the pollutants. So what we do in stormwater management is we basically try to get back to where we were, and we store stormwater, and we treat the stormwater so that it doesn't impact these surface waters. Next, please. And then also, if you take a look at, this is the Bay of Green Bay. There's a number of issues going on. It's the largest freshwater estuary in North America, but it has its challenges, and much of it comes from agricultural sources. So this is the impact due to erosion of farmland and then the nutrients associated with that. And as part of the program, we look at nutrient management on the farms, and we've had a lot of interest from the land and water conservation districts and in the counties, and Natural Resource Conservation Service has been marketing our graduates as well. Next slide. So as the industry in general, what's happened is it's got a great outlook, and maybe you've heard that already today. A lot of job opportunities currently, and what's really occurred is a lot of the key regulations occurred in the 70s and were implemented in the 1980s. And people like myself who joined the industry back then are all aged and looking, at some point to retire. So that opens up a lot of opportunities for skilled individuals to enter this field. Next slide, please. And just a little outline of what you'd learn. This again is a 2-year associate's degree. In the first year, we focus on getting your skills in chemistry and biology, very important. And we continue on. Hydraulics and hydrology are important. We do a number of hands-on chemical analysis. And then in the third and fourth semester, we really focus then on the wastewater treatment processes and operation, and the drinking water treatment and distribution processes and operation, and in addition to solid and hazardous waste and air pollution control. So that's what you'd expect to learn. Next slide, please. Yeah, and you could just kind of click through these, Allison, if you're operating. I just wanted to get a sense of, we have hands-on activities, and we're really trying to get those skills that you would use as an environmental technician in the field, taking samples or doing analysis in the lab. So you can, and I thought, I don't know how much time we have, but I just thought I'd take the video. I'm here in our lab just to kind of give you an idea of what to expect here, right? Can you see this okay? But here's our classroom, and we do a lot of chemical analysis here. We have Class A glassware. We do a lot of wet chemistry, a lot of hands-on stuff in addition to the field activities, and we have we do a fair amount of microscope work. Back here we have our testing and equipment for analyzing water. We're getting ready for a jar test this afternoon at the streets of drinking water. So I think I clicked my mouse and I lost the view here, Allison, but if they're able to see the
We
next
still
slide,
see you.
I don't have much left here.
There you go.
So the next, there's just our graduates. They're going now into a very good job market. Utilities are hiring. Consultants are hiring. County soil and water conservation districts are hiring as well. Next slide. And I wasn't able to update this slide, but you kind of get, these are kind of some starting salaries. So this is entry-level environmental engineering technicians. So we're kind of in the low mid 40s range as far as a starting salary. Good benefits typically. And then, yeah, I guess if we've got time, I have just a little background on what I've done. I've done some teaching gigs, but I took this program over about 3 years ago, and it's been a lot of fun.
Great. So do you get the opportunity to actually work out at the Green Bay water treatment facility at all as part of the program?
Oh, yes, we do tours. They are a huge supporter of the program. So they're very involved. Actually, all the many of the samples that we run analysis on, I'll swing by there and get their samples. They're a big supporter. I think of all the institutions in the area. It's a great outfit.
I had no idea that was so huge. Do you know how many gallons a day that they push through that facility?
Yeah. So they're in about the 40 million gallons a day range. That's just one of two of their plants. They have one in De Pere, which is a bit smaller, about, I can't remember, 10 or 12 million gallons a day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's I think they employ a little over 100 people in the district.
Okay. Allison, do you have any questions?
There's no questions in the chat. I guess my observation is, when you want to find a job that is fulfilling and satisfying, and I think maybe to even look at this area in terms of the importance of water. Like, it just sounds like it would be easy, but it ain't, right? So it's like, if you want to make an impact in what you do every day, this certainly seems that would fulfill that.
Yep. What's more important than clean, safe water? Quite honestly, you can think of just not too many things that important.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for your time.
And let me switch back over to my slide deck here. So just two last slides, just a reminder that we are going to be looking at law, public safety, corrections, and security for February. So please do register for that. You should have gotten the registration link with your email this morning. And as always, we appreciate your feedback. So you should have also received the feedback link this morning, and please stop by and leave us some information so we can make sure to make improvements to our virtual job spotlight. So thank you again to all of our speakers today. We really appreciate your time. And as always, we learned a tremendous amount about the opportunities in ag, food, and natural resources post-secondary education today. So thanks for joining us.